they would actually have a cup with a strainer on top. They'd pour their wine through the strainer to make sure, just in case a gnat got into the wine, that it didn't get into their cup. They'd remove the strainer, take a drink, put the strainer back on. Need a refill? Pour it through the strainer. Lift it up. Because if a gnat got inside of you, it'd make your body unclean. Okay? What Jesus says is that you're trying so hard to be holy that you're actually making yourself ritually unclean. You're keeping that little gnat of faithlessness out. But then you forget about these people and you make yourself unclean. I've gone through phases where, I was fasting. I was reading my Bible every single day, really opening up to God in prayer. I had a Wednesday night service I was going to, and I had a Sunday, and I was really real about what was going on in my life. But boy, I'd go to work, and somebody would cross me, and I'd hit him with some angry stuff. But I was close to God. I just didn't care about their hearts because I'd be so glad to break them. Do we spend so much time on spiritual things that we neglect people that need help? You strain out the gnat, but then you swallow the other disgusting thing, the camel. Okay, next. Do you feel the rub?
Yes.
Because people really think this is about me and my relationship with God, and that's just it. It's all about me and God. It's not. It's more than that.
Right.
Okay, next one. Verse 25. Jesus says, "You're hopeless. You religion scholars and Pharisees, you frauds, you posers, you burnish the surface of your cups and bowls so they sparkle in the sun, while the insides are maggoty with greed and gluttony." Maggoty with greed and gluttony. Ugh. "Stupid Pharisee, scour the insides. Then the gleaming surface will mean something." Jesus' method of how to win friends and influence people. If you were to read this in the parallel passage in Luke 11, Jesus actually says, if you want to clean the inside of the cup, give to the poor. And then your cup will be clean. We're going to call this, number 5, plastic people. Plastic people filled in. Plastic people. This one bothers me, and I'll tell you why. Because I work with a bunch of firefighters. I work with a bunch of good guys who aren't saved. Most of them. Okay? And whenever I get them alone with me, we get to talking about God, and I ask them if they go to church. They say, no, I would. Man, there's just so many hypocrites. And the pastors are all greedy. And you got, leaders in the church that are child molesters, and there's all this stuff. And I want to say, there's hypocrites in church? Well, come on then, you fit right in. But I can't say that because that doesn't show grace and righteousness. It doesn't show any of that good stuff, right? But to be honest with you, I think that there have been times in the image of the church where we try to be like Christ. We just don't really reflect His image. We dress up real nice, put on a real smile. How's everything? Everything's great. It's great. It's great. But you had a bad week. You're dying inside. It's not real. And the people at work, people at school, just want to see something real. They just want to see something real. They're tired of the image of the televangelist on the TV who's got nothing, but he's rich, but he's giving you nothing. It's fake. People just assume go to a movie on a Sunday morning instead of coming to church because of plastic people. By the way, did you realize that people could be in positions of religious authority? They could be pastors, they could be church elders and church board members and still be fake? You know that? All right. Did you feel a rub? I do. I feel it. Stop, blink, make a wrinkle, think. Let's move on. Circle it. We'll come back to it later some other time. All right. The next one, verse 27. You're hopeless, you religion scholars and Pharisees, you frauds, you posers. You're like manicured grave plots. Grass clipped and the flowers bright, but 6 feet down it's all rotting bones and worm-eaten flesh. Hey, welcome to Cross Point Church of the Nazarene, where we like to preach positive things. Okay. Sorry, I'm glad the church elections were last week. All right, so he goes on, he says, people look at you and think you're saints, but beneath the skin, you're total frauds. Number 6 is skeletons in the closet. Number 6 was skeletons in the closet. Christianity is not a self-help religion. Okay? It's not about getting cleaned up on the inside so you can be a better person. Behavior modification doesn't really work because it doesn't do anything to the heart. It's like dealing with the signs and symptoms, but not really dealing with the illness. So If our holiness is not based on behavior modification, then what is it based on? How do we become holy? Again, it's here. It's right here with God and with each other. It's in being real. You know, people on the outside, they both love it and hate it when they see that a Christian has skeletons in the closet. You know, maybe you got up to go to the bathroom, left your computer on or whatever. Somebody comes to your computer and discovers that there's porn on it, or discovers that, there's just, you're looking at something you ought not to be looking at, or maybe people have been out with you and seen you flirt with the ladies, even though you're a married guy, or you've, just something's not right. And they can feel it, even if they don't know what it is, because it's obvious. There's nothing more miserable than a Christian who's in sin. Nothing. Nothing more miserable. So how do we get these out? Well, one is through confessing to somebody and getting yourself where you can get some help for maybe some cycle of behavior that you've got going on. But the main thing is this. It's this. When you are walking with God and you are giving and doing God's mission, you don't want to make time for those addictive behaviors and cycles. You don't want to. There won't be time in it for you. There was a creative life, and it was great because I was actually, close to God. I was actually doing His work. I was going to like Mardi Gras and Fantasy Fest and ministering to people there on the streets and homeless people. And my walk with God was so real. And I think there were weeks when I didn't commit any real obvious sins, other than maybe some thoughts here and there. But it was real because I was doing something with it. And I had friends that I could share and be honest with. And through that sense of confession, I found healing. So again, this goes back with the first one about being real. Being real. Did you maybe feel a rub there? Again, stop, blink, think. Circle it. Let's move on. Verse 29. Jesus says, "You're hopeless, you religion scholars and Pharisees, you frauds, you posers. You build granite tombs for your prophets and marble monuments for your saints. And you say that if you had lived in the days of your ancestors, no blood would be on your hands. You protest too much. You're cut from the same cloth as though murderers, daily adding to the death count. Snakes, reptilian sneaks." Really, Jesus, tell us how you really feel. Do you think you can worm your way out of this, never have to pay the piper? It's on account of people like you that I send prophets and wise guides and scholars generation after generation. Anybody here read the Da Vinci Code? I think on page 250 there's a quote from the religion scholar who says, Jesus never claimed to be God, and nobody really said that Jesus was God until some 400 years later. It's a lie. Right here, Jesus is saying that I have sent prophets and wise men and scholars out generation after generation. And then he says, generation after generation, you treat them like dirt, greeting them with lynch mobs, hounding them with abuse. He continues, you can't squirm out of this. Every drop of righteous blood ever spilled on this earth, beginning from the blood of that good man Abel, right down to the blood of Zechariah, Berechiah's son, whom you murdered while he was praying. NIV says, like between the altar and the curtain, you murdered him while he was in the holy place. All of this blood is on your head. All this, I'm telling you, is going to come down on you, come down on this generation. Jesus said that the judgment of everything that happened in the past was going to come down on the Pharisees and the scholars of his day, right there and then. Jesus taught this in a couple of other places when he told the disciples, look, judgment's coming, and when it comes, head for the hills and hope that it doesn't happen in the wintertime, and hope that none of you are pregnant. It's going to be very hard for you. And it did. In AD 70, oh, by the way, before AD 70, you may have read in the Bible where these people were really coming after the Christians. They were killing them. They were murdering them. The Apostle Paul comes into the scene by taking people house to house and arresting them. And so all of this stuff happens. And then AD 70 comes.